anything? Okay. All right. It says the recording started. So I am obligated. I want to make sure everyone knows that we're recording this session. There's no need for anyone to come off camera if you don't need to during the session. And we slated this to be about an hour long, but it may be less. It kind of depends on questions that you all have, and we just want to really cover our bases so those considering attending will understand what the training is about. But since we're recording now, I want to just recap what I said so far, which is this is for the Wholesaling Institutions training, and we're going to get into a lot of the details so you understand what you're getting into if you decide to do it. But let me start with introductions. So I'll start with myself. My name is Shane Kaplan, and I'm from the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture, Farm to School Program Manager. And we're at PDA, we run this program, and we have typically worked with GoodRoots. So I'm going to ask the GoodRoots folks to introduce themselves, starting with Lindsay Sora.
Sure. Hi, I'm Lindsay Sora, and I'm the Director of Business Consulting at GoodRoots. I'm located in Athens, Tennessee, and I'm also a farmer. So I have been in your shoes and am currently in your shoes. And yeah, excited to answer questions as we go along. I'm going to pass this over to my fellow Lindsay M.
Hi, everybody. I'm happy to be here. I'm Lindsay McDonnell. I am located in upstate New York. I have been with the GoodRoots firm here for about 4 years, working in both business consulting and accounting, and also have been farming, although that's changed from full-time to part-time to evening and weekend side hustle, which is where we're at now. But I love it. And also before this, I ran a value-added dairy business selling to large retailers, small stores throughout the Northeast. So hoping that I can bring that experience here to help all of you.
Great. We won't ask everybody here to introduce yourselves, but when we get to the end, people can kind of come off mute if they are and ask questions. At that time, you can kind of identify yourself if you need to. But I want to kind of get into what our agenda is for today. So we already did the first part. We did introductions. The main thing that we want to get into is what does this training entail? What are the specific things that you'll get out of it, and how to prepare? So I'll start with just the training details and what's covered by the training. So this is really important. I want to emphasize this for those of you who saw the flyer and were interested, it piqued your interest, but don't know the details. It's not just there is an in-person training. It's a 2-day training that's going to happen in February, which we call Wholesaling to Institutions. But if you go to that initial training, you get so much more than that. I feel like I'm getting into my sales pitch here, but I can say from my experience, because my wife is a farmer, she's gone to the training I think twice, and the amount that you're going to get out of it is kind of immeasurable. It's a really, really powerful, really effective training, and it's not just the 2 days. It's also, if you are in the cohort that starts in February, then you also will have access to roundtables that follow up from the initial training and give you more tools and more resources and more time with the staff of GoodRoots. And then in addition to that, another thing you get is one-on-one opportunities to connect with them and talk about your specific situation. And they go into granular detail with your books and helping you understand, what is making money and what's not, and potential opportunities to pivot and things like that, which is really valuable. So just to be clear, so it's more than just the 2-day training. It's like a whole year worth of valuable information and resources. In order to get the whole year worth of the whole suite of resources, you have to sign up for the initial training, which is this year going to be February 17th and February 18th. It's a 2-day training. It takes place in Harrisburg. I should have written that on here. It's in Harrisburg, so we do ask people to travel. Most of the things you need in order for the training to work are paid for. One big exception is travel. So we know that people are traveling from all over the state to do this training, and it's one thing that we don't pay for is travel. So we expect you to be able to get here, but often if larger groups are coming from certain parts of the state that are far away, you can set up ways to carpool in order to get here. And I'm willing to help people with that if travel is an obstacle. I'll help connect those dots. But we do cover lodging. So there's a local hotel that we'll use for the way that it works is guests can arrive on the 16th, the night of the 16th, check in and stay in the hotel the 16th, the 17th, and then check out on the 18th. The last day of our training is the 18th. So that way you can arrive, one night, wake up the next morning and be able to come just over to the training, which is not far from where the hotel is that we usually use. And we will cover, going back to things we're covering, we cover most of the food. So we cover breakfast and we cover lunches. So there's one dinner that we don't cover. But often what's happened in the past is that we did used to do that. And we want people to continue to make the connections, to continue to build the connections so we can kind of figure out where people want to go for dinner. But that's not something that the Department of Agriculture is going to cover the cost of that one dinner. So that's a thing that you would have to cover yourselves. I don't know if any of my partners have anything they want to add to anything so far, or just focus on the modules when we get to them.
Yeah, I would just add to your comment about it not just being the value in showing up to the workshop. The roundtables is valuable because you're meeting with other owners that are in similar situations. And so the value isn't just the one-on-one consulting, which is huge because we're working specifically on your business, but it's the chance to be able to have a group, a network of support that you can talk through things that are happening in real time in your business, which as business owners, it's lonely at the top, we like to say. And so you don't have that outreach naturally in your workflow. And so I think that's feedback that we get is just like how great it is to be a part of a network that you can, pitch ideas to or share struggles and see what's worked for them in the past.
I concur. That's a great point. Having these, and I think that knowing from the past, people make these connections and continue to have connections with these other producers across the state for years, and that's really valuable in and of itself. But also, I'm just like, when I think about the value of this, it's just like hard to put a price tag on it. It's really, really valuable, and it can continue to pay dividends for years after the training. I'm going to go to the next slide, which is kind of focusing on what the 2-day training will provide for you in terms of the modules and education that they're providing. And I'm going to hand it off to the Lindsays to kind of go through what the modules provide for you all.
Absolutely. So I'm going to keep it high level. There's a ton of detail, so I'm trying not to make your eyes glaze over as we go through it. But the first module is going to be getting to know school markets, and that's traditionally handled, Shane, by who's the partner who does that?
That may be PDE. We have some other partners that are going to be involved, and I know Audra's here, but I don't know if she wants to talk about any of the parts. So yeah, I need to kind of connect with some of the partners about their pieces. But yeah,
it's really great. It sets the stage. It helps you identify like what are the challenges for school markets in particular, but also just institutions, like what's their challenge in buying from producers. So that way, when we get into the work, we can help figure out like what is the problem that we are solving before we go to a school market or to an institution. So it's a really great place to start. Then we'll move into module 2, which is how to start selling and how to manage your sales pipeline. So we'll talk through things like how to build your wholesale clientele. And we'll do this by identifying your offering. So what's your product? What's your price? Is that price profitable, right? We don't want to just sell something that we're losing money or it's, we're not making much money on. We're going to talk about your delivery radius, and we're going to outline logistics. So, what are your days for delivery and how does that impact your workflow, your team, if you have one? So we're going to think through all of those things. And then we're going to explore ways to find your buyers and discuss how do we decide if a particular buyer is a good fit, right? You don't want to say yes to everybody. This needs to make sense for your business. We'll discuss what wholesale suppliers look for when working with farms and how to build those relationships and producers, not just farms. And we will also work on creating a sales pipeline and teach you how to manage that process of the sales process in general. So that's module 2. Linz, anything you want to add there?
No, I think you got it covered for module 2.
Sorry, it's a lot. So if anyone does have a clarifying question, please write it down and we can come back to this. And so module 3 is about capacity and project planning. And so we start this off with doing a SWOT, and we will use someone, a volunteer in the classroom, and we will do a SWOT which examines your strengths, your business's strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, and threats. So someone will get to go through that process with everyone. And the point of that process is to identify what are some opportunities within your business that you can pursue in the next year. And so once we do that, we'll talk through goal setting and action planning. And more than that, like, how do we set realistic and attainable goals for our business? And then what are the action steps that need to take place? How do we break that down into small bites? And then we will also create a project plan that allows you to track your progress on a goal that you set for yourself, as well as if you're going to have team members or people supporting you in that goal, how do you assign things to them and how do you keep them accountable, and vice versa? How can they hold you accountable to things that you're going to manage in that project plan? So that's module 3. And then module 4 is when we're going to start getting into the farm accounting, like the numbers side of your business. So module 4 is the basics of farm accounting. And we're going to show you our approach at Good Roots to accounting, which is management accounting. It's different than, oh, I'm giving emojis, sorry. It's different than tax accounting, right? So your tax accountant's job is to work out your books so that you pay the least amount of taxes possible, right? Like they have been successful when you pay the least amount of taxes possible. But what we want for you is for you to be able to look at your books and be able to see what actually happened in your business in any year, and where were you profitable, and where is there room for improvement to increase your bottom line, or where might there be some operational tweaks that you can make. So it's a little bit different mindset than if you're working with a CPA, what they would look for in your books. And so we're going to work through a chart of accounts, focusing on what we call the 7 numbers, which are your main parent categories that make up your profit and loss statement. If any of this sounds confusing, we will get into it in the workshop itself. And you'll walk away with understanding what a COA is, a chart of accounts is, and why it matters. So we'll look at a profit and loss report and how it can be used to show comparisons between years, and how to get insights into changes that you're seeing that are occurring over time. And we'll take a look at key ratios and benchmarking, not only within your business year over year, but then also like comparable businesses. So you can know, am I on track here? Am I way over in labor compared to my peers? Am I shining in this category? And the point of that is to help you make key decisions in your business. And we'll also talk about the balance sheet, which is often neglected, but is important. And so we'll talk about how to identify your net worth, and then also using the balance sheet to see how you can justify handling new debt to a lender, if that's something that you're considering. And then module 5 is product costing. And within that module, we will teach you how to understand your product cost when you're considering selling to wholesale institutions or any other different sales channel that you're not currently pursuing. And we'll assess price versus cost by product, and we'll look at product margins and what you can expect when you're selling to wholesale or a different sales channel, and what a good margin goal should be for you. It's really important that you bring real numbers. And so if there's something top of mind for you that you're considering, try to come up with what costs would be for you. So if you're going to produce something new, just even back of the napkin numbers, because we will work in real time throughout these modules with your numbers. You'll be doing it alongside of us. So when you leave, you'll walk away with something that's true for your business and not just a bunch of handouts that you then have to go and kind of translate to make sense for your business. So please bring, if it's seeds, seed costing, or if there's equipment that you think you might need, like write that down, and we will use all of that. And then after we go through the product costing tool, we are going to, you'll have a good idea of whether you can take a certain product to market or not. Is the juice worth the squeeze? And we'll also work through an opportunity assessment. So in the instance that maybe you do need something new for your business, you need a root washer or some other piece of equipment to make it a more efficient process or to make it make sense for your business, we're going to look at what's the return on that investment. How many years will you see the return break even on that? So there's a couple different tools that you're going to walk away with there. Anything else on product costing, Linz?
No, but I do want to add, I just think that the timing of this is perfect, right? So we're wrapping up our financials from this last production season, 2025. It's a great time to really dig in and get accurate on, your own personal spreadsheets or, accounting program that you use. And, try to bring those really good numbers with you to this workshop, garbage in, garbage out. So if you're not coming with accurate numbers, you're not going to get an accurate solution. So I think the timing of this all is really good.
Yeah,
So.
that's a great point. And so if you currently are selling or you currently have QuickBooks or some accounting software, just making sure that you're reconciled through the end of last year would be super helpful to have those accurate numbers, like Lindsay said. But if this is something you're considering and it's new to you, don't feel like this isn't for you, because we also will talk about, starting from scratch and what that looks like. So everything that we'll be talking about, you can view from the lens of historical data, or like, this is startup and brand new to me, and we're going to take a scientific guess at like what this looks like, so that you can make a decision on if it's worth it to begin pursuing. So I just want to add that it's not just for people established in business. If this is something new you're considering, please still come. And to that end, module 6 is budgeting, and we have this broken out into 2 sections. And one is where we're going to budget specifically around the whole farm. And module 2 is budgeting with that wholesale enterprise added in. So what does it look like if we do add in a wholesale channel or a different sales channel? And we will discuss using your historicals to create a budget, but then also we'll teach you, if you're doing this from the beginning, like how to do it from scratch. And then you'll walk away with the framework to complete that, so you can start this growing season with a budget in place. And really the purpose of a budget is to give you goalposts throughout the year that you go back to. We don't just make it and not look at it again. You're going to reference this ideally monthly, but throughout the year, to see, like, is this in line with what I was thinking? Am I on track? Is there something I need to do to course correct to try to get it in line with what I needed it to be based on my budget? So yeah, those are the modules. There's a lot, but it's all super relevant to your business and actionable. And so I think it's definitely worthwhile, and things that you can take and then build on every year. You can take this and then follow these steps the following year too.
Thank you. That's great. It's a really helpful description of those. And the only thing I would add, because I'm not the expert on most of these topics, is that I've observed that it is paced to work for the folks in the room, so that so no one gets left behind, in terms of, like, some of the topics are dense, and the instructors are really good at connecting with people where they are and answering specific questions as they're working through their books. So it's paced to work with the participants that are in the training. I'm going to go to the next slide, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there's a couple ways that I think that are helpful for folks to prepare, and things that they should plan on bringing. And so, we're really going to be digging into your own farm's financials and your numbers. And so we really need people to bring their own device, and importantly also a power cord, because you'll lose power faster than when you're working with all these programs and QuickBooks and Excel and things like that. And so be able to charge your device. A personal note for me is that the place that we're working, the conference center, we try to set the temperature in a way that works for people, but it's like a big room, and I think that it's challenging to heat it correctly. So having people bring things to help them be comfortable, whether it's like snacks, but also potentially layers, can be helpful if you're planning to come. The staff at Good Roots, hey, they have these like amazing tools that we're going to be using that are spreadsheet based. So if you can have Excel or Google Sheets, I think Lindsay Sora was saying that they use Google Sheets a lot of times, but either one of those to have downloaded, to have a copy on your computer, or be able to access Google Drive so you can access Google Sheets before you come would be good. And I guess I should mention, I didn't write it here, but I will in any of the other communications that go out. We'll be using Wi-Fi in the Farm Shows Conference Center, the Keystone Conference Center. Sometimes the Wi-Fi is iffy. If you have access to some kind of hotspot, that can be helpful also in addition. And then, this is probably what I would say is the most important, because we want to be looking at your real numbers from the previous year. So we have, you can, having digital copies, paper's okay too, but digital copies of profit and loss statements from the last year for comparison. I don't know if the other folks here want to take it away, if there's like things they want to emphasize. You probably know this better than I do. Is there anything that you want to say about the things that we have here, these bullet points here?
Yeah, I'd just say your 2025 profit and loss, and then if you were in business in 2024, if you could have that 2024 comparison would be great, so we can see any trends. What is your sales growth percentage, things like that, which we'll talk through. So that would be great. If you don't have a profit and loss statement, again, just any numbers that you do have, even if it's just like writing it down of like, this is what I think my sales were, this is what I think I spent, like just do your best to come with some numbers that you feel are true for your business last year. And if you have the previous year, that's great too. Sales by customer summary, for those of you that are on accounting software, that should be a report you can pull. If you don't, again, just like jot down who you've been selling to, because we're gonna use that for our tools. And then your balance sheet, same thing, 2025. And then if you have 2024 as a comparison, that would be great. And if you have a chart of accounts, if you can have that too, because we're going to work on rearranging it inside of a Google Sheet or an Excel. You don't have to commit to it inside of your accounting software on the fly, but we'll teach you about chart of accounts, how we see it laid out, so you can make those changes if you bring your list with you. And I'd bring a water bottle too.
Oh yeah, that's helpful. Okay, so we kind of reached the end here, and I'm going to open it up for questions from anyone who joined us. And there's no bad questions. We, because it's what we described is there's a lot to it and it's complicated. So love to hear from you all if you have questions. You can, if you're muted, you can unmute. You don't have to take yourself off the screen. You don't have to put your camera on if you don't want to. But just feel free to ask us questions. We'll answer them in turn if we can. Or if you want, you can put them in the chat too. That's another option. I can read them.
If you do decide to come to the workshop and then sign up for the roundtables, I'm just going to make my pitch to please use your one-on-one consulting time. It is super valuable, and it's just focused on your business. And Shane mentioned his wife. I got to work with Heidi one-on-one. It is a huge value that you're getting with this, and that's just my plug to like take advantage of all of the things.
Oh, I thought of something I wanted to say, which is if you have tried to access the registration link that we put into the flyer, you'll see that there's the questionnaire in order to register for the training is kind of extensive. There's like 38 questions or so, but it's important to answer that as well and as accurately as you can, because we're going to use that both in preparing for the training, but also we like to track over time, decisions that people are making and how things have changed so that we can continue, getting funding for this program in the future. So when you do it, try to take the time, answer that really accurately. And all those questions are important in terms of like acreage and what you're growing and those kinds of things.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We will tailor our examples to the types of businesses that are in the room. So if we don't have any, cattlemen, cattle women in the room, we're not going to talk about beef costing. But if you do, we've got a beef costing tool. So we'll bring tools that are specific. We've worked with beekeepers, apiaries. We've worked with dairy. So we have orchards, the gamut of tools accessible, but we want to make sure it's tailored to who's in the room.
Lindsay, can you remind us how many one-on-one sessions folks, up to how many they can get as part of this program?
I need to double check. I believe it's 10, but I'll make sure that we have
Oh.
that solidified, unless you know off the top of your head, Shane.
I don't know off the top of my head, but that's amazing.
Yeah, that's incredible.
All right. Natalie asked a question in that.
Okay.
I have a farm and I'm unsure how I want to use the space. Would this be an event that I should join? So yes, I would say come with a couple of your ideas that you're thinking about how you want to use this space. We've had last year, even there was somebody in the room that was in a very similar boat. So just being exposed to these conversations will help you decide of like, this sounds awful. No way. I don't want to do that. And we'll save you the time, or something may really pique your interest, but at least you'll have the tools, and then we can run some scenarios based off of like some of the ideas that you do have. So I still think it would be really valuable for you. And then you're that much more prepared for when you do start in whatever fashion it is that you decide to go with.
Great question.
Awesome. Anybody else?
So I just want to say that I can be available to answer questions by email. I'm going to put my email in the chat. It's also on the flyer. And if there are questions that I can't answer because they're technical, then I will forward it on to the Goodroots team, and then they can answer the questions. But the one thing I'll say also is that we usually have a longer runway to get folks registered, and so it's a short runway, but we do have people who are already signing up, and so we have a limited amount of spots. And so if you are on the fence and you're thinking that it might be valuable, I would say to register, and we can have a conversation, as we're going, if you're having issues or things like that. But I don't want people to miss out on the opportunity because they're not 100% sure. Just ask the questions, sign up for the training, and we can kind of go from there. All right. Well, I'm going to first of all turn off the recording, and then we'll just do a quick wrap up, and I'm going to put my contact in the chat.